In this video, as promised, I'm going to show you in depth into a learning module. So I'm starting from the course landing page. I'm going to scroll down and I've decided to show you Unit 2. So I'm going to click on Unit 2. As I mentioned in the previous video, the course tour overview, um, this clicking where I did takes you to the same place that you get if you click coursework and then content. Except I went directly to Unit 2 rather than the last unit I was in. As you scroll down, you'll notice that, let me back up for 1 second. I'm choosing Unit 2 because it is typical of most of the units that we'll be working on in our course. Just for the sake of continuity and having you be able to get used to how things run. We do essentially the same assignments in units 2 through 6, just looking at different materials, right? So the readings are different. The period that we're studying in New Mexico history is different, but the activities that we do with those things are the same, or at least similar. Unit 1 is an exception, but it's organized in a very similar way so that if you work through it the way that I'm going to show you here, you'll be able to understand everything that needs to happen. All right, so as you scroll down, you will notice then I've included an image and a title for each of these. So we're going to be looking at New Mexico's first peoples, the Spanish conquest, and the Pueblo Revolt in Unit 2. Whenever you've looked at something, it gives you this checkbox and tells you it's complete. That's all that means. This class isn't really set up such that you're actually, completing a specific assignment and having that checked off. Instead, the progress bar shows I've read this. So it may actually mean I need to go back and look at some of those things so that I can actually complete the assignment. When you scroll down, you'll see the list of everything that is inside the unit learning module. And so it's a big, long list. It ends with the self-assessment and looking ahead. Please click on the unit intro and objectives to start. So just click the first thing. Then you'll be able to use the arrows to work through each step of the unit. So as you'll notice here in Unit 2, at the beginning of each learning module, I have written a short introduction to the history that we're going to be studying. As you scroll down past that introduction, you will see the assignments that you need to complete either the first day or the second day of the unit. Excuse me. So Unit 2, for example, runs on August 18th and 19th for our class. So on the first day, August 18th, you need to do the readings and view any of the film clips that you're able to view. You need to post your reading tweets, and you need to submit the identification step of the timeline assignment. So those are the things to do during the first day. During the second day, you will do the connection step and the journal or discussion. So that's something you choose either or. You don't have to do both. You do either the journal or the discussion. So those are the steps for the second day. Here are the objectives in terms of what we're going to be studying more specifically. And I've posted short videos to introduce you to the topics we'll be learning about. And as you'll notice, they're kind of old and I should probably redo them. So hopefully I'll get around to that soon. You'll also notice and be able to tell why I started shaving my head. All right. So you can scroll down to the bottom. If you don't have your instructor's head right here, there's an arrow where you can click ahead. The arrows are also up here. So just click to the right. That will advance you to the next step in the unit. After the intro and objectives section, there's always a section that presents you with the readings. So as I've noted in the syllabus, Morgan, these are chapters from our digital textbook. And I will post, if I haven't yet here, a section on how to approach the readings for our class. And just short version right here, you don't have to read everything word for word, and I don't expect you to. So I will post a video. I'll probably put it here in Unit 2 that explains how you might approach that so that you can still get the most out of it, even without reading everything word for word. Because you notice there are 3 chapters here for us to look at. There's also this Chaco Canyon Exploratorium website and a podcast called The Return of Oñate's Foot. If you had time, you can get into some of these optional readings. And I've given you some questions here to think about. There are no assignments connected to these questions, but there will always be questions to help you focus what you're reading and learning. So again, if you don't have any idea about earliest peoples in New Mexico, read through these questions and it will give you some things to be looking for. So look for the answer to how did the first peoples adapt to the climatic conditions in ancient New Mexico. That's something to give you a goal as you read. And on and on, you can read through those. So the next section is where I'm going to put that video that I mentioned. That is not yet here. But it will be. And then after that, there will always be some film clips. So these are usually either lectures by other historians or not interactive, but well done videos, whether documentaries or more feature kinds of film work that deal with the specific topics that we're learning about. This is to give you another perspective on what you've been reading, help you understand things that you may not have understood through the reading. So again, please get to these if you can. But again, as I'm scrolling down, you'll notice there's a lot here. So if you can't get to all of them, I don't expect you to get to all of them. If you don't get to any of them, it's okay. They're just here to help, give you another way of getting into what we're studying. Next, I wish my internet was a little faster. It's just not tonight. This is a section that's only in Unit 2. Every now and then I'll put something, an FYI, that is something you could go to study and learn more about. So the Idle No More movement has been going on for a few years. It's an indigenous movement in North America, more in Canada than in the United States, but there are other indigenous movements here that are asserting indigenous people's place in our modern day society. And so what I want to really emphasize by including this here is that Native peoples aren't just part of our past. They're not just something that someone who were in the past, but there are people who are still here. Their cultures are still vibrant. They're still resilient. And we need to recognize their cultures in that way, especially as non-native folks and the descendants of settler colonists like myself. So that's that section. Not in every unit. There's not something like that necessarily. The next one will remind you to do your reading tweets. So the reading tweets are, and you should click here to get the document that explains the assignment. You'll need to post 15 tweets, as you can read here, 10 comments, 5 replies. That's the minimum. You can do more. This is an exercise in writing concisely. That's something that is an important skill to think about. But you should also approach this thinking about how you would, or taking notes, I guess is what I want to say. This is a way of taking notes and commenting on each other's ideas about what is most significant in the readings that we're doing for the given unit. So it's a way to kind of get started with the discussion, to identify some of the key topics, issues, historical figures that you might want to put up on the timeline, that sort of thing. It's instead of doing a multiple choice quiz or something, but it's a way that you show that, yes, I've been reading and this is what I'm thinking about it. All right, next we have, and these things build on each other. So the reading tweets are sort of our way into the reading. Where you're supposed to, again, just write kind of notes about what is most significant, what really stood out to you or what struck you in the readings. Then for the timeline ID step, you'll click here to review the assignment instructions if you haven't yet done that. This gives you kind of a brief rundown of the instructions. By the time we get to Unit 2, you will have already put up a personal post on the timeline, so you should hopefully know how to use Tiki-Taki at this point. If you have questions after looking at the Twitter and Twitter and timeline tutorials module, that's where there's some video tutorials about how to use Tiki-Taki and what you should be doing with this timeline assignment. If you have questions after that, at that point, let me know. I'm happy to help. But again, for this one, you identify a topic, something that stood out to you based on what you were doing with the reading tweets assignment. You're reading and you're thinking about the materials that we're studying. I lost my train of thought there. So that's what I mean when I say the reading tweets builds up to this one, where you're going to go into a lot more detail about whatever topic you have chosen for the timeline entry. As we move forward here, so right there, that's the stuff that is due during the first day. During the second day, you'll read through the course timeline on Tiki-Taki, and you'll find someone else's post that connects to your own, and you'll write the connection step. There are more specific instructions for that in the timeline assignment instructions that you could link to from the previous slide here. As always, ask questions if you have them. If there's not an entry that connects well to your own, it's okay to connect to something else that wasn't added to the timeline. Just say that because there wasn't something here, I've connected to this topic. And that's totally fine, because it's more important for you to make a strong connection than to just connect to something that's on the timeline because it's there, if that makes sense. Hopefully that will become more apparent as you're looking at the timeline. The last assignment then is sort of the cumulative everything that we've done this far. You're going to put into either the journal or the discussion. So the journal or the discussion is your way of giving closure to the unit. As you can read, if you click on the journal assignment guidelines, the journal asks you to reflect on kind of what you learned about this period in New Mexico's history as you study it. The discussion gives you a specific prompt that does call for you to be a little bit creative. They're all different, so you can decide that you want to do the journal for Unit 2 because you didn't really want to get into that discussion. I'll show it to you in a second. And then by Unit 3, you can change your mind. You don't have to do the journal for Unit 3 just because you did the journal for Unit 2, is what I'm getting at. You can decide each time whether you want to do the discussion or the journal. So the journal has some requirements. You read those there. And then you can click ahead to see what the discussion's all about, so that you'll have an idea of which one you want to do before you actually make that decision and go through with it. So the discussion for this one asks you to write a letter to the Rio Arriba County Manager about the removal of the Juan de Oñate statue. And again, you can read the prompt for more on that. If that's something you want to write about and respond to someone else about, go ahead and do the discussion. If that's not something you want to engage in, you can do the journal for this unit. Then the last slide for each of these learning modules is a self-assessment and looking ahead. And I'll show you exactly what that means. Here it is. So what this does is it gives you the checklist once again of everything that you should have completed for this unit. It also reminds you about the final project. That's something that doesn't appear in the learning module, so you have to click there to go and see what the instructions are and how to start planning for that. Here you'll see the due dates for each step in that project. So those are things to be doing as you continue to work through each unit learning module. And as I mentioned, the learning modules for Unit 2 through 6 are roughly the same. You'll be doing the same types of assignments. We'll just be doing different readings. So you'll have different materials to study and work with as you complete those different units. All right, so please let me know if you have questions. Hopefully that's helpful for thinking about how to do the kind of day in, day out coursework in our class. And I'll talk to you soon.